On today's Agent Leader podcast, I have the pleasure of interviewing Ed McGrath, who has helped lead BancFirst Insurance Services from $6 million to an astounding $33 million in revenue. And guess what? They're just getting started. We're going to talk about the secrets to monumental growth as Ed, the president and CEO, sits down with me to discuss some of the key areas in terms of culture, strategies, processes, and producer development. You do not want to miss this episode. Enjoy. Welcome to the Agent Leader Podcast. This is the podcast for agency leaders to learn, to grow, to develop, and ultimately become their best version possible. My name is Brent Kelly. I am your host. Excited to be with you and excited to share a very special guest. I have Ed McGrath today, who is the president and CEO of BancFirst Insurance Services. They are located in Oklahoma, although they also have offices in Texas, so they continue to expand. BancFirst Insurance is a top 100 insurance agency, and Ed's got a wealth of knowledge and experience. And as I tell all my guests, I may go all over the map in our conversations, but I can tell you this, in my relationship with BancFirst, and of course, getting to know Ed, you're going to get a wealth of ideas and thoughts. And my guess is, Ed, you might even challenge him a little bit today. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But first and foremost, Ed, welcome to the Agent Leader Podcast.
Thanks, Brent. Glad to be here.
So I'm going to start off and just keep this very high level. If you could share with the audience, the agent leaders out there, Ed, just a little bit about BancFirst, the overview, and then certainly your particular role and involvement with the agency as well.
Okay. BancFirst is a publicly traded bank in Oklahoma and now in Texas. They got into the insurance, property and casualty insurance agency business. Their first acquisition was in October of 2004 and purchased my agency in 2.5 years later in April 2007. So the leadership of the bank was looking to expand their total offering in financial services. Made sense to him. We've had one acquisition since. It was a small $1 million book. It was more of a relationship situation. So the total revenues on all acquired that BancFirst paid for was $6 million. So since 2004, lots of things have changed. And some of the things that have changed is we've expanded into different cities. We have 4 offices in the state of Oklahoma and 1 in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area. So we have grown organically from that $6 million of acquired revenue to this year. We'll finish about $33 million plus. Yeah. So the leadership of BancFirst knew from the very beginning that we could not run an insurance agency like we run a bank. Mm-hmm. So they encouraged, I think that's a nice word, encouraged me and our agency leadership team to operate as an independent agency and not as a bank-owned agency. So the success that we have had as a bank-owned agency is, I think, a direct relation and benefit of the leadership of BancFirst themselves, saying, you guys are autonomous. You do what you do, we'll do what we do, and we won't try to micromanage you. Some of the bank-owned agencies that I have seen in the country, and I've gone through the Marshberry and the bank-owned agencies and participated in that. And the stories I've heard, I just said, I'd lay the keys on the desk and say, good luck, with what I've seen. So we're a little different. And, but we get to enjoy the benefits of a large publicly traded bank and all the resources, and get to live every day as an independent agent and serve our customers as such.
Yeah. So. Well, a little different, but I'm right. Look at the numbers again, from 6 million to 33 million in 20 years.
Yeah.
That's impressive. And there's a lot to that, right? And I want to get right into this. We were talking before we officially recorded. So one of the things is obviously we've got a relationship with BancFirst, part of the Sitkins network. And let me ask this first, Ed, because I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. How many $1 million producers do you have in your organization right now?
$1 million+
Million
producers.
plus, some well
Yes.
beyond
Yeah.
that for
So
sure.
we have multi-million-dollar producers. So we have 16 $1 million+ producers. So we have 33 total agents. Eight of them are new, and they're on subsidy right now.
Mhm.
So we have really been investing in new agents, believing that, and quite frankly, one of the reasons, when we first started talking is when you have that many agents with that large of books, they become satisfied
Yeah.
with the great agents that we have that represent us. Also need to add new agents so that we can continue to replicate and grow the way we have.
Yeah. Well, and kind of mentioned this, so I'll go right there. So we first started talking, learning about the history of BancFirst Insurance and the growth. And one of the questions I asked in one of our initial meetings is, why in the heck do you need us or want to work with us? And again, not that we don't feel that we can add value to agencies. That's our role and our goal of what we do.
Mhm.
But with
Yeah.
the growth that you have all had and experienced, it wasn't like there was major things broken, right? There were some really good things happening. So if you could address that, Ed, why the partnership? What were you looking for long term?
So I was first exposed to Roger Sickens back early on. So
Nice.
I've been an agent since '86,
Mhm.
and through young agents in Oklahoma, Roger actually came in and talked to us, and I utilized some of the things that I had learned from his presentation. To answer the question why now, it's because leadership succession. I'm stepping down as president and CEO in January 1, and bringing on a new president, uh, very sharp young man, very capable, but kind of the things I say and do, most people don't get away with. And you've experienced some of that yourself
Yeah.
with me. But I also say you can't club off me. The way I do things don't necessarily work for anybody else.
Yeah.
You can't bounce off trees, skip on water, and land on the green every time and think that's normal.
Yeah.
But it worked for me.
Mhm.
So what I wanted to do was put a more disciplined, accountable process in place to enable us to replicate and grow our business the way we have. So I believe what got us here wasn't going to get us to 50 million, especially with me stepping down here at the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Again, I don't know if I've said this directly, but kudos to you for that, Ed, just from a personal level of, it's interesting because you probably are not going to say this, but I'll say it, right? A lot of leaders don't think that way outside of their exit, right? It's hey, I did my thing, I worked hard, I achieved some stuff, and now I'm going to go do whatever I want to go do, which is great. Versus, I want to leave this place in a really good area for long-term growth, even after I'm not there.
Right.
Again, that speaks volumes. And we see this often from, just great agency leaders. They think well beyond into the future. And I think that's just, again, a kudos to you for that. I want to start with success. And again, whether it's a specific situation or an area that you guys have had great success, I know it's more than one or two that could probably go on for a while here. But from the agent leader audience here, and people listening going, wow, this is an agency that went from 6 million to 33, and they're going to be continuing to grow. What are some things they've done or doing that have worked so well? And what can I learn from that? So I guess it's the way I'll approach the question to you, Ed, is just maybe highlight a success or two, or however many you want, of things that BancFirst, your organization, has done really, really well to get that momentum you've achieved.
Well, the single biggest thing is our ability to attract really high caliber quality people.
Mm.
And I would rate that as one of my greatest accomplishments, because the agents, the staff, the leadership team we have,
Mm.
uh, I would tell you they could go anywhere. And it's funny, we don't have contracts with anybody. I have no employment contracts. I don't believe in them. I never have.
Yeah.
And I told the bank right off, I don't want them.
Yeah.
You know, we try to create the environment that if you can't succeed here, you can't succeed anywhere. And I want everyone to be here. I want them to want to be here. And if either one of us change our mind, then we'll have that conversation. But we don't lose agents, and we don't have producer contracts. So it's kind of crazy. It actually reminds me of a psychology experiment we had in college, where they hooked us up to electricity, and they would shock you. And with one of the experiments, you had a button that you could push to tell them to stop. And with the other one, you didn't. So what they found is that people that didn't have the buttons that tell them to stop would say, "Oh, it's too painful," at a lower level than the people that had the buttons.
Interesting.
To stop the pain at any time.
Yeah.
I probably made $10 on this, so I might be sharing something here.
Yeah.
But I think it's really the control thing.
Yeah.
So the fact that they know they can go, the customer will make the decision who they want to do business with.
Yeah.
So we don't have contracts. And that's a little different. And somebody might look at that and say, "Oh, you're vulnerable." But I feel that, you create the culture, the environment where people want to be there, and they all have their me inks and our we ink, and we're all being successful together.
Yeah. Well, there's a track record there to support your claim, to say the least. Although I know right now there are people listening, their jaws are probably on the floor. Like, you what? You don't have any contracts? Like,
Yeah.
no. Which, and this word is probably overused, but I think what you said there, Ed, and I wrote down, I mean, it really is the word empowerment. Like, it really is giving power to others. And I think that's interesting too. I hadn't thought about it in that way, about the control. And it's interesting, like, if I don't have any control, right? Like, you start to that's when you have all these feelings and things, and you get squeamish versus, hey, I've got some control here. And I could control it. I don't want to be here anymore if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But because I have some of that control, I realize I'm much better served. So it's very interesting. I have to go look at that experiment you talked about.
Well, it's 45 years old.
It's crazy. That's crazy. So, well, from a cultural perspective, again, not shocking what you built. Anything else? Again, it could be internal, external, that you found that has really worked well for your agency.
So when I look at successes, I have to look at the problems that we're facing.
Sure.
That's how we going to measure a success. It depends on the obstacle in front of us.
Yeah.
Something we just did recently. In fact, we finished it 2 weeks ago. We struggle like everybody else for talent. I mean, this is an ongoing battle for a long time. I think COVID, escalated exponentially for us. So something I had happen a couple of months ago, I had a producer come to me, one of our $1 million+ producers, and most of our business is won on broker selection as opposed to quoting. But the producer came to me and he said, "I would not accept a BOR if anyone handed it to me, because we don't have the service staff to be able to serve the customer." And you can imagine how I might have responded. But it sounded a lot like, "Oh, hell no." Yeah. And so what I did is I contacted the Hartford School of Insurance. I contracted with them. They came in and did a 2-week school for us, for the commercial lines coverage specialist school. And then a lady who had recently retired this last year brought her back and said, "Okay, you've been retired for 6+ months. It's enough. Now I need you to come back to work." And she is teaching a class of 18 students on how to become account managers. So, actually it's 15. So we had 3 new producers I put through the Hartford School. and 15 new prospective account managers. And then we will deploy them into our different offices across the state and Texas. So that's the problem, and this is our success. We believe that doing this internally, instead of paying headhunters or paying somebody $20,000 more than they're making where they are now and promising them to work remote, that seems to be the hook. We're going to grow our own.
Yeah, it's great story. And I making notes here. I mean, of that. I mean, obviously, yes, there's a challenge for talent. And I do remember, yeah, very, very distinctly, you mentioned the fact that basically we don't have capacity to write more business.
Right.
Right. Which, to say the least, is a problem. I think, what you said there, and again, part of this, I keep thinking of learnings and takeaways, is there are a lot of people, and this has happened to me too. I'm certainly, this has happened to me, but I try not to be this way, is that there's a problem or there's an issue and you go, I guess it's just not possible. And the difference is, you've heard us talk about this probably in some of our sessions, is it's not possible unless what?
Yeah.
Right. It's not possible unless what? Well, not unless we do this. And I think for a lot of agent leaders and people in general, again, I've been here before, is that we focus so much on the problem or the challenge that we never discuss the solution. And we spend the majority of our time complaining about the problem versus the majority of our time brainstorming and filtering what is the action we're actually going to take for the solution. And to me, that's an abundance versus scarcity. And I don't have a question here necessarily, Ed, other than, and maybe there's other areas you've seen that, but do you agree that and see that a lot of people are scarcity mindset versus the abundance mindset? And how do you see that apply, maybe just insurance agencies in general? That's a vague question, but I'd love to get your feedback there.
Saying all agencies, when you look at the independent agent landscape, anywhere from the 4-man office to the, international broker, we all struggle with a lot of the same issues, but people have resources today that didn't exist 40 years ago. So when I started in the agency business, I had an IBM Selector typewriter, I had a copy machine, and I had a desk phone. That was my technology. And I had a phone book. That was my total technology. What's available to people today to overcome these obstacles? The amount of information and the solutions that we can provide, the distribution outlets that are available to agencies today is just, there's no excuse if you're willing to do the work. I have a saying that everything works if you will. It's that simple. Every diet I've been on will work if I'll work. And that's what it takes. So it's just a willingness to put yourself out there, take risk, and embrace it. Just lean into it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's such a simple but important concept. Like, it only works if you do, and it is true. And I think part of that too, Ed, is you got to be a bit creative. And you mentioned taking risks, but I got to be a bit creative. How could I do this a bit differently? I mean, even going back to what you said, as far as the trajectory of the agency, what got us here is probably not going to get us there.
Right.
So I got to be a bit creative. What's some new and innovative things I can do? I didn't prepare you this question, so I apologize, but I want to ask. I told you I get curious about stuff because I was thinking back earlier on, and we talked about the amount of top level production talent, multi-million-dollar producers that you have. And quite frankly, I don't have the opportunity to have that many agency leaders with that many multi-million-dollar producers. And so it hit me on this, is that, because you've worked so closely with so many of them, what are some of the characteristics that you've seen in the top level producers? What do they have? What do they possess? What do they do? How do they think? I think that'd be a fascinating, question to get you to share, because you're so close to it.
Well, you did not prepare me for this question.
I didn't.
You might be a little surprised on this answer.
All right.
our number one, our highest producing agent actually went through the Sitkins program more than 20 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
And he was with a different agency at the time.
Mhm.
I hired him in 2008 and brought him on. But it's those disciplines that there's no magic to this. It's really the processes and the disciplines. And that is the difference. It's and it sounds so simple just to say that,
Mhm.
but it's hard work.
Mhm.
And a lot of people don't like hard work, being disciplined, being consistent, working the plan, the process. It's just that. And there's no magic. There are guys that specialize in different business segments, and they're very good at that. And there are guys that they are network builders, and they just thrive on reciprocity. Kind of that Zig Ziglar, they're doing something for someone else all the time. They're always networking. They're always building their pipelines. They're working their centers of influence. But really, it's just the processes, the disciplines, and what I have created loosely. I believed after you sent me the book, Best Version Possible,
Mhm.
which I guess you sent it to everybody if you sent one to me. But
Not
when I
everyone.
received the book, I read it,
Yeah.
and that's what caused me to pick up the phone, because I recognized what I had been doing, again, wasn't going to get us from 33 to 50, especially at this point in time when I'm stepping out as the president and CEO. So I wanted to give our leadership team and the next president a accountable process to continue to grow our agency, because our trajectory line, just looks like that. And I think it's a failure of leadership if we don't continue it. I didn't do my job. So, he's bought into this, and, I expect us to be there. I expect us to be 50 million within 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I'm going on hunches here, and hunches aren't going to solve any of the world's problems, but knowing, and I think you used the word several times there. Well, you mentioned discipline. I also want to throw in the word dedication, right? Like part of that is, no, we're going to make this happen. All right. And there's that focus on that. And you've been on some of the leadership sessions we've been doing the last few weeks, and I've been talking about this. I think what you said, Ed, is really, it illustrates this point really well, that anybody can get excited about something for a short period of time. I mean, I can think of many things, like you mentioned the workout, like, this time I really mean it, right? But it is, whether you want to use the word, the dedication, consistency, whatever is, am I willing to put the work in even when it sucks?
Yeah. Do
And,
what it takes.
and it's like, well, I don't want to hear that. It's like, well, I would love to tell you there's some magic bullet or whatever pill, whatever term you want to use, but it's not. And and having the pleasure of talking to some top level producers myself, I mean, it's always like you ask a question of, well, what's made you successful, and you always want to expect this like really cool answer. Although now I don't. The answer is generally, I just do the basic stuff a lot,
Right. And I do it really well.
and I do it really well, right? And I continue to get better, and I
Yeah.
just keep working it, and then I work it, and then I work it, and then I work it. And I remember talking to a producer, and I forgot how he worded it. He goes, you know what? He goes, there are some weeks and some things that I do that I really don't like it. He goes, you know what though? I really love my lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I thought, it's pretty smart.
It's been a tremendous ride, tremendous career. And it's where those B- students can really shine.
Yeah. Well, I suppose that's one way to look at it, but part of it is being B- wasn't about the work ethic, right? Or dedication necessarily. It might have been, I wasn't interested.
It was it was a work-life balance.
There you go. There you go. Well, I want to hit one more thing on here, Ed, and I know again, it's my own fault. I kind of the conversation. I gave you some questions, then I go all over the map on things. but you've been doing this for a while. And I want to ask a question. It's a question to ask every agency leader. Um, if you were having a conversation with a younger version of Ed, so newly started in the business, Ed is walking down the street today, and you run into him, and besides the fact you'd probably say, "Wow, what a good-looking guy." Not that you're not a good-looking guy now, Ed, but you look back, oh, look at this, and he looks at you and he says, "Hey, listen, wise Ed, if you could give me one piece of advice, what would it be?"
Other than buying certain stocks
That's good.
40 years ago,
Yeah.
other than that, the biggest thing that I would say is trust yourself and take more risks, because I look back and can see certain stages of my life, had I trusted myself more and taken more risk at those times, I could have done, I could have done exponentially more than we've accomplished so far.
Yeah.
And that's really it. Don't play it safe. Not that I feel like I played it safe, but there are times when I definitely, if I would have had more confidence in myself, it's a mindset. The battle's between the ears all the time. But had I had the mindset and taken those risks and really believed in myself, it would have been fun to see, what we could have accomplished.
Yeah. It's, from an emotional level, it is interesting that maybe we don't always use a term, but fear of different things
Sure.
holds people back in a lot of different areas. And whether we like to admit it or not, we all experience different levels of it at different times in different places. So I think that's a really interesting answer. There isn't a wrong answer, but so I'm going to ask you another question here, Ed, because why not? It's my podcast and I have you on here, so I don't want to keep you too long. But within that, where do you? And again, I go back like the producer relationship and then maybe your own experience. Where have you seen fear, doubt, uncertainty hold people back? In what ways? Because it's everywhere. And
something as simple as asking for referrals. I mean, it's so simple. Here they're singing your praise and you're saying thank you, and that's my job, and not having the confidence in yourself to believe you're worth asking for a referral. I mean, that's just one area, but it's an important area, because a lot of our business is at least 35% of our business is referral based in our agency. But that's uncomfortable. But you just solved a problem for them. You've created this risk management solution, and you're not confident still at this point to be able to ask for a referral. So that's one area.
Yeah, it's a big area. You're right, and there's more than that. But and just basic numbers. Again, every agency is different. But we've seen, gosh, why is it that 90% of clients will continue to pay you money, renew with you, yet less than 10% will actually refer? Like, why is there such a gap there? And you've heard us say this, Ed, in our programs. Your best clients, they really do want to help you.
Yeah, I believe that. But I think that's a confidence, that is one area where confidence is a key factor there.
Yeah. What outside of pending future basking in the sun and glory of retirement someday, Ed, what are you most looking forward to the next even year? Because I know you're going to be doing some consulting work with BancFirst as well. What are you most looking forward to?
The thing I get the most joy out of right now is building up younger producers and helping them be successful. I mean, this industry, we are losing so much talent here within a 5-year period. I'm actually on the young end of it, and I'm receiving my Medicare card my next birthday. So, but I consider I'm still at the young end of it. There's a lot of guys that are going to be and gals that are going to be out of this industry
Yeah.
and creating those same opportunities for young people to see what a great life this has been, you know, for me and for so many others, and just helping them, equipping them to be able to do that.
Yeah. It's great. I love it. And we need more Eds and people doing that. I know there are a lot of people that are giving back to the industry, but in fact, I was talking to someone earlier today and I said, I don't know where I heard this, but I said, you know, one of the things, if we can help young people that might be in a really cool or they consider a great job,
Right.
understand that there might be a really good job that's an amazing, great career.
Exactly.
Right? That'll change their life. So, Ed, as again, we kind of wrap up here a little bit. I'll leave this open. Any other thoughts, ideas, comments? You've got the platform here with agent leaders that are listening in. Just some general thoughts as we kind of wrap up here today.
I think the best agencies right now, including ourselves, are enjoying tremendous growth and profitability, but we can't take that for granted. You know, in 38 years, I've seen markets change.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest challenge is having the right who's in our shops and equipping them so no matter what those obstacles are, whatever change is going to hit us, be it inflation, you know, be it war, whatever it's going to be, we're going to have the right people in place and the right resources to handle what's coming. We don't know what's coming, but again, no fear and just lean into it. Know that we have the right who's, and it's always the book Who Not How. So, you know, we're going, that's what we're doing. We're trying to put together the best work family for BancFirst Insurance Services that we'll be able to handle as well as anyone what's coming and to be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because it's good, but it's not going to stay good forever.
Well, we've probably overused this quote, and maybe you've heard it in different stuff, but I do love it. The Warren Buffett quote that when the tide rolls out, we'll know who's been swimming naked.
Yeah, that's right.
And
So,
it's true. And I think, you know, Ed, just I guess my summary in my head of what you said, and I always use the phrase control the controllables, but it's true. There's certain things that we do have some control and power over, and many things that we don't. And doesn't mean the things that we don't impact us. It means that it's not our best use of time, right? And energy in many cases of what if they do this and what if this happens and what happens here is let's empower our who's, get good who's, and give them processes and plans and tangible things we can do that give us some power and control back, regardless of what happens. Because I can't control that, what's outside, but I can control what's here. And I think that's a very, very powerful thing. So, Ed, thanks so much for being a guest on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. And again, certainly appreciate the partnership with BancFirst Insurance and getting to know you. And one thing I know about you and the agency is you will get to your 50 million because there's dedication to it. So I know you've had a ton of value. So, Ed, thanks so much for being on the podcast today.
Brent, thank you. Enjoyed it.
Appreciate it.